it wasn't email sequences in themselves that had me feeling exhausted. It was the beliefs underneath the email sequences. Because everything at face value is just neutral. Nothing is inherently heavy or exhausting. It is what you bring to it.
Welcome to Breakthrough Mode, the podcast where we intentionally get into the driver's seat of our lives, shift out of monotony and mediocrity, and step on the gas towards becoming the person we were always meant to become.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Wednesday in the Wild on the Breakthrough Mode podcast. I am your host, Megan Bauer. Thank you so much for joining me and pushing play on today's episode. Last Wednesday, I gave you an exercise in awareness. And today, I want to take that one step further. And I didn't actually plan it this way. It just kind of fell this way, and I'm really kind of delighted by it. So, as I was thinking about what to share, I was reviewing the last week in my head and looking for some sort of experience to bring to you. And it just so happens that these two exercises in awareness go hand in hand. So, if you didn't listen to it last Wednesday, this episode will still make sense to you. However, awareness is a practice, and so I would encourage you to listen to last Wednesday's episode. I believe I called it the energy audit, and that will be so good. So, as humans, we walk around all day long without being truly present most of the time. We're not super aware of what's going on, around us, as well as what is going on rampant in our own minds and our own thoughts. And I would say that everybody has different levels of awareness, but we tend to either live a lot in the past, right? So we're thinking about what we just did, or we're thinking about past situations or past circumstances, or I tend to live a lot in the future where it's like, this is what I need to get done. This is the order I'm going to do things in. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And even when I wake up in the morning, my first thought is usually future focused. What do I have going on today? What does today look like? And I choose to rein that in every morning, rather than because I rather than going that direction. I focus my first thoughts in the morning as I'm getting ready for my exercise and my morning ritual. I really strive to keep my thoughts focused in on gratitude. And so over and over in my head, I say, I'm grateful for this, and I'm grateful for this, and I'm grateful for this. And I try to keep that as the running commentary in my head until I get down to my bike. But my first thoughts are usually always about, what do I need to do? What what do I have going on today? What's the plan? What needs to be done? And even as I got up with the dog last night at like 10:30, that's where my brain went. Like, what do I have to do tomorrow? Like, I just have to stop that train of thought, because especially if it's in the middle of the night, 10:30 is the middle of the night for me. Especially if it's in the middle of the night, my brain will just keep on going on. And then I'll start to make plans, and that will get me out of the sleep zone and into more of a productivity zone, but not super helpful because I haven't had my full night's rest yet. So our brains tend to go wherever they will, right? We've got thoughts of the past that come up. We have thoughts of the future that come up. And rarely are we ever just sitting in present moment and acknowledging what we are experiencing right now. So here's the experience that I had, and the takeaway that I am offering to you. So I was sitting thinking about the future, of course, and thinking about, what if I do this? And I was starting to feel a little bit excited about making plans and things that I wanted to do and things that I wanted to create and things that I wanted to offer and all of this. And then all of the sudden, I noticed my all of a sudden my emotions shifted and I stopped getting excited and I felt the words that came into my head were, I'm exhausted. And I stopped. I stopped myself right there and I asked myself, what was I just thinking about? Right before I heard myself say in my head, I'm exhausted. What was the thought right before that? And since it had just happened, I was able to figure out what that thought was that had gotten me from feeling kind of excited to all of a sudden, oh, I'm just tired. Like I can't do any of it. I'm exhausted. And noticing what that thing was interesting because, of course, there are beliefs behind it. Now, I told you I was getting excited about what I wanted to create and what I wanted to offer and what I wanted to do. And the thought that had me drained was I had just thought, okay, and then I'll build this email sequence. It was the email sequence that triggered the thought of I'm exhausted. So, of course, underneath that thought about the email sequence is there's a belief there. And once I could look at the belief, I could look at what I was feeling or what I was believing about the about email sequences or about that email sequence that had me feeling automatically exhausted. Now, most of the time when we're thinking about things and then we just get exhausted or we feel some sort of way or whatever, the normal thing is to not stop ourselves and ask ourselves, what was I just thinking about? The normal thing is to just continue on with, well, now I'm exhausted and I don't want to do any of it. And so then maybe we pick up our phone for a distraction. Maybe we, start doing something else. We start doing the laundry. We start doing whatever. We just move on with our day, right? Like we just move on. Like, well, now I'm too tired to engage in creating that thing or doing that thing or whatever it was because I'm just tired. And we just continue on. We don't stop and ask ourselves, what was I just thinking about? And this is a practice because as you are going on throughout your day, something will happen, something will trigger you, something will come up either in your brain or in your environment or some situation, somebody will say something, you'll see something, and it will cause an emotion within you. And sometimes, most of the time, we don't stop and dig into it. I had another situation recently where I was at an event, I was with a group of people and someone walked in and I instantly felt triggered. And I had to ask myself, why? Why did this happen? Why did I feel triggered because this person walked in? Like I like this person. They're great. They're awesome. I love them. I'm happy to be here. I'm glad that they walked in. What was it? Was it the way they walked in? Was it, you know, what they were talking about? Was it the energy around them? What was it that got me all of a sudden from feeling like great to not great and digging into that. And the more you do it, easier it will be to figure out what it is that has you all of a sudden feeling not so great, or all of a sudden drained, or all of a sudden irritated, or all of a sudden whatever it is. And I think that we all have our own kind of default emotions that we go to. Mine has a lot to do with energy. Like I'll feel drained, I'll feel heavy, I'll feel frustrated. Mine have a lot to do with those types of feelings, but maybe yours is more irritated or maybe anxious or maybe fearful or there's lots of ways that it could go. But the point is to notice when that hits you, as soon as it hits you, to look back instantly and notice what just happened. Did something come up in your brain? Did you see something? Did you hear something? Did something come into your immediate environment that then caused this feeling. And then whatever that is, there's something underneath that. It's not just that thing at face value, right? Because somebody else could totally love email sequences and building them out and writing them out and making them all flow and everything. And that could get them totally lit up. So it wasn't email sequences in themselves that had me feeling exhausted. It was the beliefs underneath the email sequences. Because everything at face value is just neutral. It is what it is. It's there. Nothing is inherently heavy or exhausting. It is what you bring to it. It is your beliefs underneath that that cause that to feel either exciting or draining or exhausting or whatever it is. And if you can look at the beliefs, you can either decide that, yeah, I actually do feel that way and great. Or you can decide, no, that's not actually the thing. And you can choose to change it. Our beliefs are something that we choose to to believe as true over and over and over again. And they cement within us as our beliefs, whether or not they are actually true, right? Children believe in Santa because trusted adults have told them that this person is real and that they bring them presents, right? So they believe this thing that isn't actually true. So the fact that you believe it doesn't make it necessarily true. It makes it an effective truth a lot of the times when we are believing things. Not necessarily about Santa, because a kid can't actually make that an effective truth in their life. I mean, we could figure out arguments for that if we wanted to, but the things that you believe become effective truths because you are looking for them out in the world, you're looking for evidence to support that belief, and that's really how those beliefs work. And I'm not talking about capital T universal law truths. I'm talking about the truths that you live by, the truths like email sequences are heavy, right? Like that can be a truth that I choose to live by, or I can choose to work on changing that belief. And like email sequences are actually kind of exciting, right? I don't know that I can say that with conviction right now, but I could get myself there eventually should I choose to. Those are the kinds of truths that I'm talking about. And we have these beliefs about all sorts of things. And these beliefs, you'll be alerted to them by your emotions. So something will make you feel really excited, something will make you feel really drained, right? Here's another example. I love to move. I think the whole thing is pretty exciting. Yes, there's a lot of work involved and yes, there are times where it's exhausting and draining because there's just a lot to do, but I find the whole thing really exciting. And most people don't. Most people don't like to move. Most people think of moving and they think, "Oh, I hate this." Right? But I have a belief under there that makes it exciting. I am like the belief, I guess, is more about like fresh starts and fresh beginnings. And the move is just a part of this new trajectory, this new adventure, all of this newness. And the move is just a byproduct of all of the newness. So I can really get behind it. But some people don't like that change. They don't want necessarily the fresh start, the new thing, the new experience. And they're hyper focused in on what a pain moving is. So that's what I'm talking about here. Here's my invitation to you. As you go on throughout your day, throughout your week, notice when your emotions shift, either for the positive. I've kind of focused here on the negative because we notice that more. We acknowledge it more when we're like feeling good and then all of a sudden we feel like crap. We feel that more for whatever reason. But notice when your emotions shift, either for the positive or for the negative, and stop yourself and be like, wait, what was I just thinking about? What just happened? What just came into my environment, into my, my situation? What did I see? What did I hear? was I thinking that caused this shift in emotions? And what am I believing about it? Because your belief is driving everything. That's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me today on Wednesday in the Wild. Remember, this segment is really like personal development on the ground, right? Boots on the ground. We're taking it into real life, we're applying it. And this is really applicable because when you notice these things, you can make a change. Either you can change your beliefs, you can change your thoughts. You can just change what you're thinking about. That will help shift the way that you're feeling. And when you shift the way that you're feeling, you show up differently, you do different things, you interact with people differently, you do the work or you don't do the work or whatever. Your emotions drive your actions most of the time, for better or for worse. And you can make yourself do anything for sure, but you can't make yourself do things wholeheartedly if your whole heart isn't in it. So that's what I've got for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. I totally love you. Bye for now.